Hey, so there's a town in the Japanese Alps, about an hour from Tokyo on the bullet train, where John Lennon used to walk to the bakery every morning, and a Canadian missionary accidentally invented Japan's fanciest resort because he hated mosquitoes. It's one of those places where 3 days is enough to feel like you actually saw it, but only if you don't spend all your time figuring out what to do next. I mapped out the whole 3 day route in a template you can grab. Links in the description if you want it. Karuizawa works in every season: cherry blossoms in spring, cool forest air in summer, ridiculous foliage in autumn, snow-covered everything in winter. So whenever you're watching this, the trip still works. Day 1 is the town itself: cobblestone streets, a mirror pond, and the church that explains why this place even exists. Old Karuizawa Ginza Street is the main drag, a cobblestone lane lined with artisan jam shops, bakeries, and cafes that feels more like a Swiss alpine village than anything an hour from Tokyo. John Lennon and Yoko Ono spent 5 consecutive summers here starting in 1976, and Lennon walked to French bakery on this street for baguettes regularly. The founder had been head baker at the Meiji Hotel up the road. Get here before 9 if you want the street at its best, because by late morning on weekends, the Tokyo day trippers arrive and the slower pace that's the whole point of Karuizawa kind of evaporates. The jam shops are expensive and artisan gets applied generously. Sample before you buy, and walk the full length slowly because the best places are easy to miss if you're rushing. A short walk from Ginza Street, Kumoba Pond is a 1 kilometer boardwalk loop around still water that mirrors the surrounding trees. In autumn, you see the colors twice, once on the branches and once in the reflection. It's also called Swan Lake, and sometimes actual swans appear, which either makes the nickname feel earned or slightly ridiculous depending on the season. The boardwalk is flat, shaded, and cool even in midsummer, budget time for lingering rather than walking, because the full loop is only a kilometer. If the wind picks up, the mirror effect vanishes, so early morning and evening tend to give you the best reflections. The Shaw Memorial Church is a modest wooden Anglican chapel tucked in the woods, and without Alexander Croft Shaw, Karuizawa is just another mountain town. Shaw discovered this cool highland in 1885, called it an outdoor hospital, and within a decade, hundreds of Western expats were summering here. The entire town's identity traces back to one man's desire to escape Tokyo's humidity. The interior smells like old timber, the light filters through the forest, and it feels more like a New England chapel than anything you'd expect in Nagano Prefecture. It's free, it's small, 20 minutes covers it, but check that it's open before you go because the chapel occasionally closes for private ceremonies without much notice. Day 2 heads deeper into the nature side. A waterfall that's wider than it is tall, a forest where giant squirrels glide at dusk, and a lunch spot built around 100 elm trees. Shiraito Waterfall doesn't pour over a cliff. Instead, hundreds of thin white streams seep through a curved volcanic rock face, forming a 70-meter wide curtain that looks like someone left a tap running along an entire hillside. The water is rain that fell on Mount Asama years ago and has been slowly filtering through volcanic rock underground. You're watching ancient rain emerge from stone. The sound is a soft, continuous shushing, not a roar, and mist drips off the rock face into the surrounding forest. Get here before 9 because tour buses arrive mid-morning and the falls face east, so morning light hits the rock face directly. The earlier you are, the fewer people sharing the view. The Karuizawa Wild Bird Sanctuary is 100 hectares of forest with free walking trails. But the real draw is a wildlife research center called Pikio that runs guided tours to see Japanese giant flying squirrels at sunset. These things are endemic to Japan, roughly the size of a small cat, and they launch themselves from trees and glide using a membrane between their limbs. Pikio tracks individual squirrels and has a sighting rate above 90%. The tour runs about 3,500 yen, book it at least a day ahead, and it only operates roughly March through November because the squirrels, sensibly, are not performing in winter. Even without the tour, the morning forest trails are worth the walk. Deep quiet, dappled light, and almost no one else on the paths. Harunire Terrace is the lunch stop, 9 shops spread across 16 timber buildings connected by wide wooden decks, all built along a clear stream under a canopy of elm trees. The architecture was designed around the existing trees rather than clearing them, which is why it feels like a small town that grew inside a forest instead of on top of one. Walk the full boardwalk loop before picking a spot to eat because the best places aren't the first ones you see, and bring cash as a backup since a few smaller vendors prefer it. 9 shops go faster than you'd expect, so settle in for a long lunch rather than treating it as a full afternoon activity. Day 3 opens with a mountaintop view where Samurai once trudged uphill, then winds down through a Meiji-era hotel and a very convenient outlet mall next to the train station. The Usui Pass observation platform sits at 1,200 meters, where the old Nakasendo Highway, one of the 5 main roads of Edo period Japan, crossed between provinces, and on a clear morning you can see Mount Asama, an active volcano, and the plains stretching toward Tokyo. Merchants, samurai, and daimyo processions climbed this pass on foot for centuries because it was the inland route between Kyoto and Edo. You can still walk sections of the original cobblestone path. The pass is exposed and noticeably colder than town, so dress warmer than you think you need, especially in the morning when the air is thinnest but also clearest. Check the weather before committing the trip up here, because on a hazy day the view collapses, but on a clear early morning you might catch unkai, a sea of clouds trapped between peaks that makes the summits look like islands. The historic Mikasa Hotel is a wooden, Western-style building from around 1906, designed and built entirely by Japanese architects in purely European style. Not a foreign import, but a Japanese interpretation of Western design at a time when that was genuinely cutting edge. It's an important cultural property now, and the contrast between the European interior, dark wood, high ceilings, the smell of an old library, and the Japanese forest right outside the windows is jarring in the best way. 30 to 45 minutes covers it, because the building itself is the attraction more than any specific exhibit inside. It underwent a multi-year renovation to roughly 2025, so confirm it's open before you visit. Post-renovation museum hours may still be adjusting. Karuizawa Prince Shopping Plaza is over 200 outlet shops spread across 5 areas right next to the station. You can literally walk off the train platform and into the stores. Unlike most Japanese outlet malls, this one has walking paths through actual trees between the retail blocks, which makes the shopping feel less like being inside a concrete box and more like wandering through a forest with credit cards. Bring your passport for the tax-free counter and hit it early if you're buying a lot, because afternoon lines can stretch. The size is deceptive from the entrance. Set a hard departure time so you don't miss your train, because just browsing can easily eat 2 hours here. 3 days in Karuizawa and you walked a cobblestone street that a beetle knew by heart, stood at a mountain pass where samurai once climbed, and eaten lunch under elm trees that were there before the buildings were. The full 3-day route is in the template, pre-built with every stop, editable, and ready to customize. Links in the description. Let me know which stop you'd add or skip. I'm curious what people prioritize in a place like this.